Now, this is a problem, but not for the reason you think. Watch what he says.
And quite often they can be very obsessed by just one issue. And there can be noble issues, whether it's Palestine or the poverty or the vaccine or whatever. But is that a good thing that they might?
Now, one issue politics is not something that just impacts the younger generation, the 16 to 18-year-olds who the vote is being proposed for. This is something that hits different generations, different classes, and different political parties. But one issue politics is a problem. Now, the reason for this is it can lead to hyperfixation. We can fixate on that one issue and believe that. Now, the problem with the issue itself is not just how the issue is perceived, it's how that issue reverberates across political life. Now, a lot of politicians will present it as that one issue is something that will then solve all the various problems. But often in cases, it has multifaceted effects on our society. And that in itself is the problem. Because if it's painted as it's one issue, so we'll solve this issue and then everything will be hunky dory, that's the issue. Because in a lot of cases, we might have issues, let's say, with the education system, with healthcare systems, which have issues that are connected to other issues, and therefore you need to look at problems more holistically. And this is where the one issue element becomes more problematic. So take issues like the cost of living crisis. That can be attached to one or a few different issues. But in reality, it is eking into every different element of our lives. One example is you can see rising costs of rent, and mortgages, and so on, and the shortage of houses. The housing crisis is playing into that. Also, you can have corporations like club card prices adjusting how the Bank of England calculates inflation statistics. You can also have the fact that we have stagnating wages, or the argument that we have the challenges where work from home is potentially getting eroded, and therefore that will force people to have to spend more money on their commuting to go back into offices. Again, compounds that issue. Equally, if you want to go further than that, you can have rising costs of childcare costs, shortages in those areas, and therefore leading to parents being further pressured and changes to the likes of the silver pound, all of which are having reverberated impacts on our lives. But it can be pointed to one issue, and mainly the reason for that is because it makes the politician's job easier. Those other small, what seem like smaller issues, are often the more complicated to deal with. But the easier one to sell to the general public is that it's one issue. Focus on that one issue. We resolve this. We haven't necessarily got a plan to resolve this, but we'll say that we have, and that tends to be the problem that is pitched to the public and what they're trying to sell. And that tends to be the issue, not something that can easily be resolved, but a complicated problem that no one wants to deal with.